Very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to yet another uLaw webinar. In today's webinar series, we're going to be talking about the reporting capabilities of uLaw, which is a legal accounting and practice management software. Today's webinar has not yet been accredited for CPD, but our webinar next week, which is around brand and how you can brand your legal office, that has been accredited for 1 hour of professionalism hours. But today's webinar is going to be yet another uLaw webinar, just going to be fun-filled to walk you through the entire product's capabilities. And the particular topic we've taken for this week is around reporting. So we're going to cover across various aspects and facets of the uLawPractice product, the reporting capabilities that we provide you and how that can save you time as well as give you behavioral data, enabling you then to take the corrective measures or learn from how your practice is performing, because that's a big part of what we do as a product and as a solution. Okay? I kindly do request you to mute your phone lines and do ask any questions that you may have using our chat window. This is going to be more of a hands-on demonstration of the product. I'm sure you're going to have a lot of questions. Please feel free to ask those questions as we make the presentation move forward, and you can use the chat window. And once again, kindly request you to mute your phone lines. Like every other uLaw webinar, today's webinar has an agenda. And as I said, the agenda is to quickly highlight, well, we say 30 reports, but right now we have over 50 reports that you can, with the compliance reports that we have. Over 50 reports across the various facets, as I said, which is contact, client management, matter management, file management, etc. So we've broken it down at the various different aspects to it. So we've got reports at the contact level, right at the client intake. Then we've got it at a matter level. So once you've created the client, you've created a matter or a file, the various different reports that you can generate at that level. And once you've actually done the dockets, your disbursements, raised invoices, then we automatically create the accounting touch points, right? So that's where you're going to start to appreciate and generate accounting level reports, which are more legal accounting focused. In addition to that, uLaw is also a business accounting software. So you are able to generate business related reports and documents as well. A great example would be that of a HST report or a trial balance, a balance sheet, profit and loss. These are all great business report examples that we'll definitely walk you through today. And in addition to these three core components, we've also got reporting from a time management aspect. So right within calendar, which is where most of our clients synchronize their calendars and manage their time for their law office, we provide you with simple reports that can actually provide you insights to how you're using your time, work in progress reports, if there's any pro bono time that you've provided, all of that to do with the time aspects of your business are all captured right within our calendar. And these are the four major, I would say, placeholders for reports for you to generate. And in addition to these four major placeholders, we obviously have question mark, which we've dealt with in a totally different session, which gives you the insights and the analytic capabilities and gives you more insight to some of the questions that you may have not even thought about. So we'll quickly highlight the different aspects of the data that we provide you within the question mark. Okay? For example, a Form 9A is a great report that you can generate right within the question mark as well. So those are some of the common areas that we're going to cover today, with the focus being on the reporting. Okay. I want to run through very high-level reports. In addition to these reports, we obviously have a very new panel that we call the compliance, which are very specific professional obligations related documents that are expected by the law society from you as the legal professional generate. Okay? So when you look at the contact or a client intake, some of the most common reports that we've seen our clients take great examples are source of contact, which is a great example that gives you a representation of where you're getting your clients from. It's not only a law society report, it's also a fantastic marketing report that gives you insight to how your marketing dollars are working. And you obviously have your client fee book, which talks about the amount of dollars that you raised an invoice for, the amount that's been paid, any balances, if any. And you can generate a simple contact list, whether you want to generate envelopes or labels, a little bit more pragmatic and related to your business. Then we have some additional reports at the file level once you've actually generated a file or a matter for that specific client. And this could include, Law Society bookkeeping guideline report that we have under compliance. And we'll walk you through that real quick. But over and above that, you can generate bill of costs, timeline reports, statement of activities, which are actually part of that compliance checklist. If you are in the silo of delivering legal aid, then we do have a very specific legal aid report. And we've also allowed you to generate timesheets that are very specific to that matter. Okay, so sometimes if your clients were to ask you for that timesheet for the work done in a particular file, you're able to generate that as well. So we'll look at those and some additional examples as well. Obviously, because our accounting functionality combines both legal accounting and business accounting, you obviously have a superset of some of these reports. As I mentioned, HST report is a great business accounting report. Then you've got your ledgers and journals, trust ledger, trust journal, trust balances, general ledger, general journal and balances. These are all definitely your compliance or legal accounting reports. And then you've got your trial balance, balance sheet, fundamentals of your business that talks about, combination of profit and loss and expenses, etc. You can also generate individual revenue, expense, and profit and loss statements. So you can either generate the overall summary of that, or you can individually generate the revenue, expense, and profit and loss over a period of time. One of the most utilized reports in uLaw would be the invoice balance report, which truly outlines the current status of the outstanding invoices that are yet to be paid, either in terms of a general payment from your client, or if there's any trust money that's sitting in your trust account, pending trust money that can eligibly be moved from trust to general. Okay? So some additional examples are as well. So in addition to some of the client matter-based reports and then the corresponding business accounting and legal accounting reports, we also have introduced under our calendar the opportunity and the ability for you to generate time-based reports. So as I mentioned, client and service summary can give you that over a period of time, the work that you've accomplished for your clients. And this could be across your firm. So there are multiple individuals that contribute to the law firm or the legal firm, and you can actually have this broken down by individuals. We have work in progress report that truly tells you, and in fact many of our clients generate that at the beginning of the week so that they know how they can plan their week ahead. They pretty much have their task ahead of time that tells them that these are all the planned activities and matters that you plan to do work, including court visits, etc. And we've also introduced the pro bono report, which is also time-based, simply because that's the time that you've given out of your firm at no charge. Okay? So we'll look at all these reports in further detail right within the uLaw product. And for those who are joining us today and who are not aware of who we are, we're a Canadian company. We're a legal accounting and a practice management software company. So we've kind of integrated legal accounting, practice management, and business accounting, providing you a cost-effective, cloud-enabled, compliant solution that you can access from anywhere. Okay? And we do offer a 30-day trial on our website for you to take advantage of. Okay, so I'm logged into my fictitious legal professional account. This is what I use for all my demonstrations. Logged in as Roger Moore. And as we looked at, we have 7 menu options within uLaw, as you're probably aware. And we'll first focus on our contacts, which is really your first step into intaking a client. And we'll look at the different data points and the reports that you can generate. This is the first step. Actually, instead of doing that, let me just take an existing example of a client that I know. So let's look at Julian Caesar. So this was a client that I was working on for a demonstration. So obviously, you have some high-level information about the contact, of the work that you provided within the client intake. You said that this was a client that you accepted through an advertisement that he or she saw. That's the address. You can give a phone number, email. So let's move forward. Once you've done that initial client intake, let's look at some of the reports that you can generate right away for that client. As I mentioned, we do have this new panel called Compliance. So it's a lot more encapsulated. We have all their documents spread out under document generation. We've got all reports, other documents. So what we've done is we've taken some of the important compliance-related documents and we've grouped them under this panel called Compliance to keep it a little more simpler. So if you wanted to do a conflict screening, you could do that right away. So this is obviously a document but a report in itself, because we're reporting to you if there are any conflicts in working with this individual. We also kind of give you some best practices for how often, at a minimum, you would think of generating some of these documents. So client fee book, click of a button. You can click on that, choose the date, and generate the client fee book. So first, let's look at a particular document. So you know right away, that's the file number. You've got that. Total invoice was $661. That was what was paid. Okay? And if you look at the conflict screening, what we've done, uLaw, is obviously we've looked at the entire database and looked for any conflicts, such as first name, any last name conflicts. So there is a duplicate Caesar, obviously. So you can do some further investigation to make sure that it was okay to represent Julian to begin with. And you've got, obviously, a couple of matters that have already been created. That's because I'm taking an existing client. Obviously, it takes you the most recent piece of information. Okay? So right under document generation, keep in mind there's a data entry component to any product, and there's data reporting or output component to any product. And within uLaw, the data entry is your action button, and getting data out of the product is using our document generation. So the data coming out of uLaw is either through reports or documents, and some of them may have a compliance nature as well. Okay. Some of the pragmatic sort of documents and reports you can generate include your list of contacts, but I'll focus my effort on, with regards to time, we'll focus our effort on the source of contact and the client fee book. That's also under the compliance, just so you know. So we looked at the client fee book. Now let's look at the source of contact. So let me say that for a date range for the first quarter that just passed, I would like to understand my different sources of contacts. Okay? So this is a great report. It has two purposes. One, obviously, it is a Law Society requirement that you give it to them if they ask you for, of where you're getting your clients from, the source of contacts. But in addition to that, because of the visual representation that we give you, it's also a great snapshot to review how are you getting your clients, right, or contacts that approach you for you to represent him or her. And for example, It tells you that about 90% of your contacts come through advertisement over this quarter. About 7% of them are referrals. You've got about 21% that are client referral, which is fantastic. And there's some miscellaneous that you have mentioned as you did your client intake. And you can see there's about 27 of them that you've not categorized, either because of lack of time or maybe they didn't give you that piece of information at the time of client intake. But we list down those names as well. If you look at John Jefferson, we don't know, how did John get to know you as the legal professional? But maybe at some point of interacting with John, he says, he was referred to you by the Law Society. It's obviously a great discipline to just go back, right? You can use our search window right here and type in the name. It's this John here. Update this to Law Society referral. And that's how you can keep your uLaw data up to date. Okay, so not only this report gives you what's happened, it also gives you the data to help you focus on what you can do with that data and update it. Okay? So we kind of covered some very simplistic reports that just at that client level. Let me go back to the other matter that I was using, Julian Caesar. So we've focused our initial attention just looking at the contact level reports. Some additional, I clicked on the wrong client. So let me search for Julian right here. So we looked at some additional examples. Could be a client ID verification, but it's best in our humble thought process. We think this is best generated at the matter level, because if you've actually created a file, then it's probably a lot more meaningful. There's some file information that we can also pre-populate. So we'll leave that for now. Let's move on to the matter itself, which is where we focus on the matter-specific reports. Okay? So obviously this is a very simple matter that I've used. I've got actually an initial retainer of $765. There's been some disbursements out of trust, some disbursements out of general, okay? And in fact, there was a $565 fee, $500 plus tax. In fact, there has been a bit of a refund. So let's say you've done all this heavy lifting, right? You've docketed, dispersed, you raised the invoices on time. Now let's look at all the reports that you can generate to close the file and move forward. You've got obviously the billable documents that you can generate, starting with the invoice, which is probably the highest used functionality in uLaw. You can generate pre-bills, complete, reprint. You can even do backdated invoices today. If there's a certain date that you want to backdate. So let's say you want all the dockets up to 31st of March to be involved in a docket. You can do that today as well. You can backdate them as well. But let's focus on the reports. You've obviously got timeline, which tells you everything that happened right from the start of the client intake to the final completing and closing it. You've got the legal aid report that has a very specific structure for how it, again, puts the data in a form. And then all these new statements. So in the past, reporting was done even for accounting-related reports, such as trusts and ledgers, were done at the accounts section or the accounts menu. But if you wanted matter-specific ledgers, so let's say your client said, give me the trust ledger for this particular file, that is defense issue, you can do so by just clicking on the statements. And it gives you this very matter-specific document or trust ledger that is specific to this particular file only. Okay? The Law Society's requirement is that of you generating it for all of your clients over a time period, typically over the period of a month. But this report would actually give you a trust ledger that is very specific to this client. Okay, so it's Julian, dated on the 6th. By looking at it, you have an immediate snapshot of what has happened in this matter. You received the 765, had a disbursement right out of trust, and then these were the 3 trust transfers that were done from trust to general, including a 565 fee, an 8475 disbursement, and 1130 as another disbursement, photocopies. Okay? And last but not the least, because there was $3.95 left, you actually wrote them a check, 67 as a refund, and that's the trust balance. So it's right under document generation, statements under reports, trust. And you can do the same thing for general, and that would do so specifically for this particular matter. You would generate the general ledger for Julian for the file 492599. Now, if a particular client had multiple files, then obviously it would generate it for the specific client, and if you needed it for all of the matters associated with that client, then you would go into our accounting. And we'll look at that as well. Okay? So here's your general ledger for that particular matter, where you received the 565, which is then broken down into 500 plus the 65 in tax. And here are the 3 fees that was moved in from trust to general. Okay? Fantastic. What other reports can you generate for that specific matter? To do that, quite honestly, we've kind of grouped all of the specific reports that are meaningful under our compliance panel. So right here, you see these are all the Law Society's bookkeeping guidelines-based documents that each and every stage or phase of that client's involvement and the matter creation. So you can generate a client intake document. You can do a client intake form, conflict screening report. There's a way for you to depict why you determined that there was no conflict in representing Julian. And what I like about the fact that these are all a click away is as and when you generate these documents, you can make them available either through Google Drive and integrate it right within the documents panel of uLaw, so that it connects with either your Drive or OneDrive. Where we actually auto-generate the file number for you. You can start to, let's look at JC49259. There it is. And this is a great habit to have, especially if you're having an audit or if you're actually having a quick checkpoint of where you are with regards to file management for each of your clients. And start to just generate those documents, drag and drop them as you do so right within that folder. Okay? Retainer letter, an authorization letter, depending on your style of practice. And then let's focus on these 4 documents. These are reports. These are good reports to provide to your client at the time of closure of the matter. Well, the settlement on accounts is something that you can generate at any time. You want it, depending on, again, the area of practice. If this is an ongoing matter, you can do so in a timely manner. Or if you've closed the matter for a simple fence issue, then you can actually attach these documents and provide it along with your closing letter. Let's look at the statement of activity, for example. And the recommendation is to do that on a quarterly basis, okay? Even if it's an ongoing matter. So here's a quick look at the statement of activity and with everything that's happened. You can obviously brand it so that you can send it to your client. You've got this one docket, offense issue matter, and it's for 30 minutes, and that's what's happened. Not a lot of information. Let's look at the bill of costs, which obviously talks about the dollars involved. Okay? Fantastic. So this talks about the legal fee of $500 plus the $65 and the general disbursements that have occurred, the photocopy, as well as the court visit. Very straightforward. Okay? So everything specific to the fees and the general. But that's not the whole picture. So let's look at the settlement and accounts. And this gives you a more holistic view of everything that's happened within this matter. So it kind of combines all of the data, the information that you saw across the two ledgers. So that was the date, the item, the work done, the specific disbursements from general, everything to do with your trust accounts you received, or the retainers, in fact. You've received the $765, you've provided a refund of $395, and were there any other trust funds removals? Yes, there was for a disbursement. So this was a trust disbursement by this check for an application fee. And there was the legal fee for $565. And this is what was. So imagine providing this data as proof of everything that's happened in that matter, keeping it very simple so that you can avoid answering any questions that your clients may have. So that's one of the top times spent by legal professionals is answering invoices or answering what's happened in the invoice. Or if you think this is a bit too much, just a high-level summary would suffice. You can go with the summary report. It obviously just talks about the high-level summary of what's happened within that matter for ease of consumption of data. Okay? That's pretty much it. These are critical documents that you download on at least a quarterly basis and make them available with any closing letters or non-engagement letters that you may have with clients. A closing letter is, again, a great example of a discipline that you can bring into your practice so that you can provide that to each of your clients so there's a logical closure to that transaction. Now, you may be dealing with the same client across multiple matters, but it's highly recommended that you close a particular matter if that is the case. Okay? And fill this information and obviously attach all of those documents that we generated. If you refresh it, it all shows up right within the context. Okay? Because they're all saved within your Google Drive right here. So once again, if you were to look at our reporting capabilities right within the matter, you have obviously other documents that you can generate, but just looking at our compliance panels, you've got about 5 documents with regards to client intake, about 4 on a quarterly basis that you can generate, and about other 3 documents that are related to closing the file. In addition to that, again, we want to focus on business documents and letters in a different webinar. We're predominantly focusing on reports of data that you're generating out of the product. Timesheet. So if you wanted to do a quick timesheet by date range or for a specific matter, and these are sometimes requested by the client for some of the corporate work that you may do. It says obviously it's a flat rate. Obviously the docketing showed that I'd done 30 minutes. I could change that to reflect the actual time spent. Okay? And you can also generate a bit of an insight about that matter. Okay? Or you can actually print it that gives you kind of a bit of an outline, if you will, of all that's happened within that matter. Okay? Fence issue, that was work done, all the disbursements, the per unit cost, and we give you kind of a question and answer view of important analytics as a report. Okay? What is the status? It's been invoiced. One invoice has been raised so far for 61. Is there any invoice balance owed? No, 0. Okay, this is a very interesting document to generate for you to know a little bit more about this matter. Okay? So we looked at our reporting capabilities under contacts, under document generation, across compliance, as well as in general under our grouping of reports. And then we looked at, once you've created a file, some additional reports that you can generate. Keep in mind, you're not generating this on your own. You're just being able to generate it through the data that's already in existence within uLaw. So under reports, you've got all of your different reports that you can generate. When in doubt, always jump into your compliance and look at the key reports or documents that are required from a compliance standpoint. Okay. Now let's move on to the accounting set of reports, both business as well as legal accounting. Once again, from a legal accounting standpoint, we've got our compliance that gives you the appropriate ledgers, journals, as well as some additional jurisdictional reports that you may have to report on. A very good example would be the Form 9A. So if you're a legal professional in Ontario, you are required to provide the set of Form 9As that you've printed for that particular month. I'm going to choose month of March. All the Form 9As that you need to sign off on. So we give you an aggregated set of Form 9As that you have generated or should have generated for that month. There you go. Based on each and every transaction that has been moved from trust to general through an electronic fund means, we've actually given you all of those. So in one shot, you can generate them, review them, sign them, and have them ready. Okay? This is a very powerful report, especially where we've done most of the heavy lifting to give you all of these in the standard form that is required. If any of the information needs to be updated, you can do so right within the Form 9A itself, and then reprint that document. Okay? You can do your trust reconciliations, your general, followed by your trust ledgers, general ledgers, and all of the journals. If I were to quickly generate my trust reconciliation report, I have this 4,000. As of today, that's the only trust transaction that I have that I need to clear. And you can ensure that the date that you reported in uLaw and the date that you have in your bank match. Provide what the outstanding balance was in your bank and generate the reconciliation report, which is actually one of the most fundamental reports you as a legal professional are required to submit, or not necessarily submit, but at least generate and have them available on a monthly basis. Okay? And once you've done your reconciliation, generating the ledgers and journals is just a breeze. The data within the product is more intact and it's prudent, and you can be sturdy, rest assured of the numbers because you reconcile them. In this case, you're not generating a trust ledger per client. Instead, you're doing so for a date range. Okay, and that's the expected compliance report that you give an outline of all the transactions across all clients. So let's look at this for the month of March. In the meantime, I'll show you my reconciliation report. So here it is, the summary of the closing balance, any errors, if any. Okay. Here was that one transfer that was done for the client Adam Brown for $4,269. And here's your client's trust listing, automatically generated in a simple report. Keep in mind this is a playground account, and hence the data is kind of out of whack. But imagine this being within your data. It's the same format. And here is the trust ledger for the month of March by date range for all of your clients. Okay, so you've got, for this particular time period, Mr. Bean Murphy, zero balance across his file number BM876. Frederick Johansson. And you can see this is exactly the format. And look at Mr. Julian Caesar and the client that we were looking for, exactly in the format that the Law Society's bookkeeping guidelines recommends. Okay? Let's have that document in there as well. In addition to the compliance reporting, which are more specific to the legal accounting, we spoke about the different business accounting reports that you can generate out of uLaw. And this is something that we're starting to encourage our clients and trying to see some traction. These are documents that many times are underused, for lack of a better term. So, balance sheet, as per today's date, would obviously give you a better understanding of where you stand with your business. And this is a new report called the Account Trial Balance Sheet Compare. And you can compare your trial balance between two dates. Okay? So you could say, give me the monthly between the start of the month and the end of the month, and give me a report that gives me a comparison of where my trial balance is compared to the two date ranges. If you see, this is your balance sheet. It talks about your assets, your bank, assets in cash, what you have in. You've got about 294 your bank account. You have about 287 in your trust account. Okay. Also lists down your liabilities. So this is the whole 9 yards, right? And then it tells you all of the legal revenue that you have received by legal work, by area of practice. Any additional revenue coming from other silos of revenue. Expenses, including your salary, including your other consultants that you're paying, your rent and taxes, and all the categories that you've created for yourself within the product. A more simpler view instead of a trial balance, and I'm specifically looking for one that has the difference. You can see here that between the first of the month to the end of the month, there is a difference, and this is a great way for you to compare a trial balance between two dates. So, okay, the question is, how do I get there? Document generation, as you know. Reports, I did a trial balance. Instead of the detail, I did the date range. That's what gives me the comparison. If I did the detail, it's just going to give it to me for today's date, for a specific date, right? Whereas if I compare it, it's going to give it to me for a date range. So I'm going to do it for a specific date. You're going to see, as on this date, this is the information. Whereas if you compare it, you have the information across two dates. Okay? Then comes specific reports. As I said, if you want to generate a monthly revenue report, you can do so. If you want to do it, generate it over the year, you want to compare it across years in a format, that you can print and review, you can do so. Here's your revenue report across various silos of legal revenue work. 755 on family law for this particular month. If you want to quickly look at where am I getting my money from, that's the breakdown. Can I also give you a bit of a visual representation of that and a bar chart. Okay? So please keep in consideration of some of these reports that are already available to you that give you all the data and insights that you need in a report format. There are different types of people and they consume data in different formats. There are those that are still required, are very more comfortable looking at reports, physical form or paper form. They would love to generate them, print them, and have them in hand. Or sometimes if you're working with your own bookkeepers or accountants, they like the same format. For those who are more visual, they actually want to be able to pick on this themselves. You can look at the same fee book by category, or you can even look at your revenue by category, if you will, the same month in a totally different visualization. Okay, the data remains to be the same. I can actually change the date range. I'll do it for the 1st to the 30th. So here's the data. Small claims is still the 34, 38. Okay, obviously it's changed a little bit compared to the data that's inside it. So if you wanted to compare two date ranges, you can do so as well. Fee book chart by category. Compare it to this month. If there's no revenue in this particular month, we'll compare to the previous month. So here's a more visual representation of the data, right, compared to a reporting structure. Likewise, you've got your expense report. You can do so for a date range. Gives you insight about where are your expenses going out of the bank, what expenses do you need to control. Gives you a reporting structure to that. Tells you that rent, taxes, client expenses. If you look at our visual representation, you've got 32% went on printing and stationery for the month of March. We really can't compare this quickly with April until you generate another report. And the comparison is where you can use our analytics to do so. Okay? They kind of go hand in hand. They actually serve two different purposes. For those who like the report, by all means you can print this. We also give you a profit and loss document. If you want to know, combine the revenue and expense and give it to you in a snapshot of the P&L. There it is. Tells you that it's a profit of $64,000 for this quarter. So that would be great if there were real numbers. Right? So all under the reporting capabilities of uLaw. We mentioned the invoice balance report being one of the most overused or should be used report, right under document generation. Under other, you've got the pro bono invoice balance, all the discounts and write-offs that you've done, and a very new report instead of an invoice list. So if you want to be able to generate all the invoices that you've generated for the month of March. You can do so now by going into Accounts, Document Generation, Other, Invoice List. So here's a list of all the invoices that you've generated. It's a report by client, by matter, file number, and invoice number. So we're going to be adding another column and calling that the numbers associated with it as well. So what we have is also our invoice balance report that tells you who owes you what money in what form, right? And another great report is that of a pro bono report. And we've combined these three because they're kind of time-based under our calendar, which we're going to jump into, just showing you ahead of time. Another compliance document as we wait for our invoice balance report to load is the fee book. Okay? Let's generate the fee book for the month of March. Fee book, expense book, aging as well, which is a great report. So, if, for example, you want to know who owes you what money over what period of time. They owe you money over 60 days, or are there folks that owe you money for over 160 days? Those are the types of data that you can consume by using the aging report. Here's the invoice balance report or unpaid invoice balance report. It gives you some insights, the oldest unpaid invoice, highest balance invoice, okay? By client, by last activity date, the balance, trust balance, and most importantly, the pending trust transfer. Now this is money sitting in your bank, waiting to be made. All you have to do is do the transfer in real life, or you may have done it in real life and not reported into uLaw. Either way, uLaw would need to catch up with what's really happened in real life. Okay, so you look at Fred Journal, there's that $100 that's sitting in pending trust transfer. Using that report, you can take an action. Just like how we updated your source of contact, using this report, what's the purpose of the report is to give you data that you can work on, right? So let's look at Fred Journal. Take you right into this matter. And here's that $100 that's sitting in pending trust transfer. And you can right away report it in uLaw, or maybe you forgot to do so, and you can quickly come in here, open your TD, RBC, CIBC bank, or whatever bank you work with, click on the transfer button, tell us that you did this maybe earlier this week, and you move it to your trust to general, do an electronic fund transfer. We automatically give you the ability to fill the Form 9A as well. Okay? And here's a Form 9A report. And when it comes to reports, and that's one of the good and bad things about it, is that there's so much of data in your legal accounting software. It's just knowing which report to generate for giving you which piece of information. Absolutely. So the question is, which screen tells you which matters are awaiting trust transfers? It's called Under Accounts, Document Generation, Other. It's called the Invoice Balance. If it's simpler, you can actually click on Calendar, Action, Compliance, and you've got that right under Invoice Balance. Maybe it's simpler to remember that it's time-based, because it's time for you to give them a call to get your payments, or it's time for you to ensure that you've done all the trust transfers, right? So under the calendar, you've got your work in progress, very important report. But under the same set of documents, you also have the invoice balance. And that's what this is. So here's an aging report that tells you, so here's an interesting comparison. You've got John Bell, and you've got John Bell here too. So you know John Bell owes you $3,954. Okay, and the last activity date was that. But he's owed it to you over 6 months. Okay? This gives you a totally different perspective. This is the aging report that I generated under document generation, reports, list of aging receivables. This tells you same piece of data, but in a totally different light, which tells you for how long does this person owe you that money. Okay? Boris Becker owes you $2.83 over 6 months. Maybe you don't want to carry that, right? It's been a really long time. And that's a pending trust transfer that you missed. So jump in, just like how we did the other matter, jump into Boris, tell us, because that way you have data sanity in the product, or if you've really forgotten to do so in real life, this report obviously comes in handy. Okay? So from an accounting standpoint, you've got a lot more piece of information that are important for you to capture. So as a quick recap, I think someone's asked me about the accounting reports. I know there's quite a few. I do apologize if that was a bit too fast. So let's just look at accounts, document generation. The compliance are all for the legal accounting reports, so let's paint the picture that way. So you look at the compliance panel for all of the legal accounting compliance-related reports that you need to generate. Then we'll look at all of your business-related documents, except for fee book, obviously, which is a compliance document. Let's look at balance sheet, trial balances. This is how you generate it. You can do a date range comparison of your trial balance. We generated revenue reports, expense, profit and loss. Under other, we have pro bono, invoice balance. If you want to look at all the discounts or any write-offs that you've had, you can do so from here as well. And that's what this report is called, discount book. So here are the two doc clients that you provided a discount. Provided a discount, $25 for Mr. Smith Jones, and about $226 for Mr. Krishna in the month of March. Okay? And here are all the invoices that you've generated for this time period. And that was also under the other invoice list. And this was a compliance document, all the Form 9As that you had for date range. Last we had aging. Now if you've brought in your internal chart of accounts with the uLaw, if you've brought in your capital, any borrowings, we have a borrowings report. And the last one gives you further analytics, but that's also available to you in the overall analytics dashboard. These are all accounting related. Okay. Obviously, there was no borrowings paid in this time period. Just as a final recap, unless there's any other questions, and today's topic was called Business Reporting. uLaw Business Reporting was the name of today's webinar. Okay. So we looked at how across contacts, matters, accounts, and even calendar, we've got both compliance-related documents as well as other reports that are important for you as a business, and how uLaw provides it to you in a way that's easy for you to report on. It's a click of a button, easy to pick on the date ranges. It's just knowing which report has which data that you require for the type of question that you have. Okay? And you can always use our analytics engine if you want a dashboard view of it. And we're going to make this available to you right within your mobile phone in the upcoming release of our app. That keeps it a lot more simpler than you've just come in to generate reports here, but you can view all the data as I keep mixing up right from your phone. Okay? So with that, I will stop here with my webinar today and pause for any questions that there may be. Okay, first question is about, you meant the aging. Yeah, so there is an aging report, as I mentioned, under accounts. It's an accounting report, and right under reports of aging. There's obviously two. One, the receivables that you receive money from, and from payables that you owe people money. If you click on receivable aging, you can do it for all clients. You can also generate it in Excel. And you click on the download. Hope that answered that question. Great. I almost missed it. So one of the important business documents would be that of the tax. So uLaw, being both the business accounting and legal accounting software, gives you this unique opportunity where we capture both taxes paid and taxes collected, right? If I were to generate a HST report or whatever is the jurisdictional report, you can do so depending on your situation, a monthly report or a quarterly report, okay? If I were to just generate a quick quarterly HST report, you would notice that uLaw would actually not only report on the HST payable, but also on the receivable. So here's where you received 345, okay, 345.13. You've also paid 520. Sorry, it's the other way around. So you paid 345 and you received 520, and we kind of summarize and we tell you that you owe the government almost $7,000 taxes. From a tax perspective, I would obviously it comes down to two things. One is, personal income tax, and then there's obviously the business tax. From a business tax standpoint, you would obviously take balance sheet, trial balance. If they want specifically, you can generate revenue expense. But I would certainly take the HST report, right? From a personal income tax perspective, I will take the revenue report. Or if you've been in the habit of actually moving money into your owner's pocket, right, you can actually take the owner's pocket as a specific report as well. For all transactions. And you can do a print GL. So what the print GL does is for the specific account that you've chosen, owner's pocket, it would do the yearly it would print out all the transactions that have happened for owner's pocket for that year. And if you're in the habit of moving money from your business into your owner's pocket, that's the amount of money that you paid yourself. Yeah? All the debits, the deposits are all the money that you've kind of paid for yourself. So you can do that too. So important documents, you can either do the print GL for the individual accounts. From a business standpoint, definitely the tax, balance sheet, trial balance, revenue expense. You can even do the fee book because that's really a combination of both your legal revenue and your disbursements. And for personal income tax, as I said, you can either do the revenue as long as you've divvied it up between personal and your business, or generate a print GL for your owner's pocket if you actually do draws. For business tax, HST, balance sheet, trial balance, revenue and expense. For further details. Okay? Absolutely. If there are any more questions, you can certainly send us an email. And the email to send us the information would be support@uLawPractice.com. And please to provide your feedback on these webinar series. We've been doing this for almost 2 years now. If there's any additional topics that you'd like us first to cover, we'll be happy to do so. And thank you very much for joining me today. Take care.